Everyone, hope you're doing fine. Welcome to my channel. Here we mostly discuss on QA topics related to automation, manual testing, interview preparations, and also on the AI topic. So today let's understand on one of the most confusing trending topics right now. The difference between generative AI, AI agents, and agentic AI. You might be hearing these terms everywhere such as LinkedIn, interviews, even product demos. But most explanations are either too abstract or too technical. So, in this video, I'll try to break down in very simple terms with real world examples, especially relevant for QA automation engineers. Let's talk about Gen AI, which is also called as generative AI. So, it is an AI that creates content based on your input. So it does not act on its own, it only responds when you ask something. So the classical example is ChatGPT. We all have been using ChatGPT and we know whatever we ask, it just responds with the answer. It can generate text, code, or in terms of QA, test cases, explanations, etc. Suppose in terms of QA, if you go and ask generate test cases for a login functionality, and this Gen AI would give you the proper output. So that's how the Gen AI works. I have explained here with a simple example. Suppose we have LLM, which is the core part of Gen AI. If we ask it what's the price of Indigo flight from Mumbai to Bangalore tonight at 10 p.m. So what it does is this just goes and talks to the flight details API and gives us the output saying it is 6000 INR. As I've mentioned here, it has no memory, no goals, and no autonomy. It just does whatever you ask based on whatever APIs it has access for. This slide, we saw what is Gen AI and what all it can do. So in this slide, we'll understand what are the limitations of Gen AI and what it cannot do. So basically, it can write test cases as we saw, explain code or generate scripts, even help you in debugging, but it cannot do things on its own. It cannot decide on its own, it cannot execute workflows, it cannot interact with system unless you manually trigger it. So Gen AI is very intelligent assistant, but it is still passive. As I explained, it does not use any tools outside or even self corrects unless you tell it if it is wrong. So the tagline is it only responds but does not act. Let's see now what is an AI agent. Imagine the Gen AI like brain. AI agent is nothing but brain with hands and legs. Basically, it can do some actions based on a goal. Like I have mentioned, it can perform tasks. It is nothing but Gen AI with tools with some actions. So it can use tools, it can follow basic steps, which means it has limited autonomy and short term memory, but still get the work done within that confined number of steps. For example, to be precise, I've mentioned a flow down there, just like we saw in the previous Gen AI example. There, it could only list the number of flights based on the API details. But here, you are asking it to book the cheapest flight from Mumbai to Delhi tonight post 6 p.m. So now what it does is it decides the cheapest one and time, books it. It also sends confirmation like flight booked at 8 p.m. for 6000 INR, and confirmation would have sent to your email. But in the previous Gen AI you saw it could only list, but here it went ahead one step and it could decide on its own which is the cheapest, and also based on the time frame we have mentioned post 6 p.m. it has chosen 8 p.m. slot and has booked the flight. So this is how AI agent can do little bit more of Gen AI with using some tools, having short-term memory and limited autonomy. So in the QA perspective, what would be an AI agent do? An AI agent can be designed to run regression tests, collect the failures, and generate the report. In the previous Gen AI example, in terms of QA, it could only give you the scripts or it could only give you the test cases. But AI agent is something which can run those tests, collect the failures, and also generate the report. So, this is the main difference. Let's see now what AI agents can't do. As I have mentioned here, they can't create their own goals and can't operate fully unsupervised. What does this mean? So in the previous example, we saw how AI agent can be used for a QA. Like if I tell an agent run smoke test on staging environment, it triggers the automation, checks the result, collect the logs and summarizes failure. But all this step they have to be predefined by a QA engineer. So this is where AI agent fails. If we define a predefined steps, it will diligently follow and keep learning inside that flow. So they cannot do a long term learning by themselves outside the defined range. So because of this, they cannot also handle multi step reasoning or they also can't work across apps or systems. Like in our case, it can only go and trigger in the staging environment, collect the results, and it checks the failure. Based on the failure, it can decide whether the failures are coming from flaky tests or data. If it is just data failure, it can fix the data and rerun. So this is where AI agents are useful, but they cannot do anything more than the defined steps. Comes the most advanced one, Agentic AI. Agentic AI is a system of multiple AI agents that plan, decide, execute, and also self correct. It works towards a goal autonomously. You don't tell it each step, you tell the goal, and it figures out all the steps. That's why I've mentioned there it is fully autonomous and it is a goal driven. As I told, we just have to tell the goal, it will figure out what steps it has to do. It can plan, it can act, it can self correct, and also work with multiple agents, like I mentioned. In the below example, I'll show you my prompt is plan a trip to Europe during this month when days are sunny. Book flights and stays accordingly. See here clearly I'm mentioning that I'm going for a trip to Europe. In this month, I only want to choose those days based on the weather. It should be sunny and book flight on those days and stays also. What it does, it now goes and talks to flight booking AI agent and also it can talk to immigration AI agent for visa. Suppose I'm going for Europe but I don't have visa. So it goes and checks for the visa status first. If it is expired or if it is not applied, it's going to apply and wait for the visa gets approval. Then checks for that month specifically which days are sunny and starts booking flight and hotels based on those days which it has chosen. So ultimately, what it does is if visas expired, it's going to renew it and flights will be booked along with stays for those 5 days when the weather is pleasant. So that's how agentic AI basically works. So in terms of QA, if I have to explain an example, so if uh, if I say just ensure the application is production ready, then an agentic AI would do these steps. It decides when to run smoke test. It will identify flaky tests. It's going to rerun the failed ones, analyzes the logs, and it can suggest fixes. And it will also notify the stakeholders. This is decision making AI, not just task execution. That's why agentic AI is considered the future. So this is a clear comparison in terms of QA context. So if we choose the core functionality, Gen AI generates the test cases, test data, code snippets, reports based on the prompts. Same AI agent, it can execute specific predefined tasks like I mentioned before with limited autonomy. Example, running a regression test in specific environment and following the steps post that. But an agentic AI, it can orchestrate the entire QA workflow autonomously, plan strategies, execute tests, and adapt to changes. In terms of autonomy, generative AI is very low, requires human prompt and guidance. But an AI agent has a limited autonomy, can perform its task without constant human clicks, but needs a trigger or predefined steps, as I mentioned. But coming to agentic AI, it is fully autonomous, operates independently, makes decisions, learns, and replans if required. And a role in QA specific domain, Gen AI can be used as an assistant for testers. It can help you write test scripts quicker or give code snippets or even generate your basic cucumber feature files. Also the step definitions. But an AI agent is an intelligent automation tool for specific tasks. Suppose as if we run the regression in specific environment, if it fails, it has to self heal if there is some kind of changes in the XPath, or it has to re-trigger the test cases if the failure is based purely on the data mismatch, etc. like that. But coming to an agenting AI, it is an autonomous quality guardian managing the entire life cycle with minimal human oversight. Or SDET, today we mostly use Gen AI, but AI agents are slowly entering the automation. But I feel agentic AI is what companies are researching and building for the future. Uh, Going forward, in terms of interviews, if I have to talk, interviews are now mostly asking on can Gen AI replace testers? How can AI agents help automation? And what is agentic testing? So, understanding these concepts, whatever I have shown you before, will definitely help you answer these above questions confidently and stay future ready and move towards AI driven QA roles. uh, that's all, guys. If you have found this explanation useful, hit the like button and subscribe. I'll be sharing more content on QA fundamentals, automations, AI in testing, and interview preparation. If you want a deeper dive into AI agents in automation, comment below. Mm, Thank you for watching. Have a good day.